Hello and welcome. Today we will be talking about power sharing. In a democratic country, when majority does not respect the views of minority, the minority group gets alienated and in a long run, the nation crumbles. That's because in a democracy, the power must not rest with any one organ of the state. There must be intelligent power sharing amongst legislature, executive and judiciary for the democracy to work. Power sharing is the essence of democracy. It means that power is distributed to as many people as possible. And it is possible to share power among the central, state and local governments. It is also possible amongst various social groups, especially with the minority, so that they can feel that they have a say in the government. Power sharing exists in political parties and pressure groups, so that power is not concentrated with any one party or any one group. But this idea of power sharing was not always there. In fact, for a very long time, it was believed that all power of government must reside with one person or a group of people located at one place. But when democracy emerged as a concept, this notion of power changed completely. Ideally, in a democratic government, due respect is given to diverse groups that exist in society. Everyone has a voice in shaping public opinion, and thus, in democracy, political power needs to be distributed among as many citizens as possible. To understand this, let's look at two stories from Belgium and Sri Lanka. Both the stories are about how democracies handle demands of power sharing. These stories will help you realize why there is a need for power sharing in democracy. Let us start with Sri Lanka. You all know where Sri Lanka is, don't you? It is an island nation just a few kilometers off the southern coast of Tamil Nadu. It has a population of about 2 crores, but it has a diverse population. 74% of the Sri Lankans are Buddhists and speak Sinhalese language. 18% of the Sri Lankans speak Tamil and are either Hindu or Muslims. 7% of them are Christians and speak both Tamil and Sinhalese. Now, among Tamils, there are two subgroups. About 13% of the Sri Lankan Tamils are native Tamils and 5% are Indian Tamils, which means that their forefathers had migrated to Sri Lanka as plantation workers during the colonial times. The Tamil speakers are concentrated in the north and eastern part of the country. Now, Sri Lanka became an independent country in 1948. The leaders of the Sinhala community wanted to dominate the government because they were the majority community. They adopted a series of majoritarian measures to establish Sinhala supremacy. But in 1956, an act was passed to recognize Sinhala as the only official language, thus disregarding Tamils. And a new constitution stipulated that the state shall protect and foster Buddhism. Sinhala speakers were given more preference, opportunities in government jobs and university posts. When this happened, the Sri Lankan Tamils started political parties of their own and began their struggle with the existing government. They wanted to recognize Tamil as an official language, get regional autonomy and equal opportunities. Because of this, by the 1980s, several political organizations were formed and they began demanding an independent Tamil Eelam or state in northeast and eastern parts of Sri Lanka. This distrust and intolerance between the two communities turned into widespread conflict, which soon caused civil war. The Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, also known as LTTE, emerged as the organization that began fighting for the cause of Tamils. Over the years, thousands of people of both communities have been killed. Many families were forced to leave the country as refugees and many more lost their livelihoods. The civil war has caused a terrible setback to the social, cultural and economic life of Sri Lanka. So now you know what power sharing means. It is very essential to get the method of power sharing right in a democratic country. You know that if the concerns and needs of all groups are not met, there could be widespread unhappiness and even war. But is it possible to keep every group happy? Stay tuned, and my next example will answer your question.
Tutormate. For more amazing video lectures, download the free app on Apple App Store or Google Play Store.